Where can you forage for food in New York, and what can you learn from it? For Ava Chin, it has a lot to do with her personal life.
You can't walk across the College of Staten Island without finding something. Dandelion greens and plantain, Japanese knotweed. My campus is just a giant salad. All good mushroom hunters like to keep their mushroom spot secret because the mushrooms come back at the same point year after year, depending on the right season. So I'm not going to show you exactly where we're going to be going. These are hen of the woods or maitake mushrooms. The Latin name is Grifola frondosa, and they're one of the best mushrooms for the fall. I've seen them upwards of $40 a pound in high-end grocery stores. It's one of my favorite delectable mushrooms. I started writing the Urban Forager column for the New York Times in 2009. And I couldn't tell the full story of why I loved these wild edibles in just a 700-word blog post for the New York Times. And so what I needed to do was to write a book, and that became Eating Wildly. I didn't start really foraging in earnest until many years later when I basically hit a moment of crisis. My maternal grandmother, who was the woman who helped raise me, was basically reaching the end of her life. I'd broken up with somebody that I thought I was going to get married to, and there was something really comforting to know that I could find things that would sustain me, that I could actually eat, things that I could gather by my own hands. With foraging, you can't have your own ideas of what it is that you want to find. If you take a walk and you keep your vision open, a lot of the times what you actually find is better than what you were originally looking for. And there's something really meditative about foraging. We're coming up on honey mushrooms. These mushrooms right now are past their prime, but when they're young and fresh and very tender, they're pretty tasty. My grandfather was the main person who cooked. And like a lot of Chinese people, he believed that your food is your medicine. So that means that the quality of your ingredients has to be the best. He taught me about herbs that were good for headaches, herbs that were good for women. And for me, finding things that my grandfather used to cook with, it makes me feel like I'm still in my grandfather's kitchen. Wild edibles are actually higher in phytonutrients than the plants and the vegetables that we get cultivated. That's because as human beings, we've tended to breed for flavor and benign sweetness. And we've tended to try to take out the bitter constituents in a vegetable that are the same things that make it really good for you. First thing I always tell anybody who wants to learn how to forage is that they have to go out with an expert, somebody who really knows what's edible and what's a potentially poisonous lookalike. And after that, I like to supplement with great guidebooks. There is a foraging app that helps you to identify wild edible plants. So you want to forage in areas that are away from traffic, away from city streets, places that are fairly pristine, slightly wooded, places where they don't throw down weed killers, so places kind of like a CUNY campus. It's actually illegal to forage in the parks. A lot of the edible weeds that are growing around us are the same plants that the Parks Department are actually trying to weed out. So if Parks Department would just tell foragers, we would like this taken out, it would be a lot better than, let's say, laying down herbicides or pesticides that enter our ecosystem and stay within the environment. I teach creative writing classes and I teach literature that pertains to food. And food in narratives is never just about food, right? It's always about something more than that. It's about sustenance, For me, it's about family connections. And also, as a forager, it's about that wonderful feeling of being able to provide for myself as well as for my family. I'm actually third generation CUNY. For me, it's a thrill to be able to give back by, teaching here at the College of Staten Island and working with young writers and mentoring them.